Zoning Board of Adjustment regular meeting of May 23rd, 2023 is now in session. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act in 1975 has been provided by the annual notice published in the Home News and Tribune on January 14th, 2023, has been posted in the main lobby of the municipal complex on January 3rd, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Bigno? Here. Ms. Shaw? Here. Mr. Ayotte?
Here.
Mr. Chabra?
Here.
Mr. Cerrito?
Here.
Mr. Patel?
Here.
Mr. Barone?
Here.
Mr. DeVay?
Here.
Vice Chairman O'Gorman?
Here.
And Chairman Kumba?
Here. All right. Madam Secretary, minutes for consideration.
We have minutes for April 18th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 25th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
Chairman Kumba?
Yes. And then other minutes.
April 25th, 2023.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes on the motion.
And Chairman Kumba?
Abstain. Madam Secretary, resolutions to be adopted.
First resolution to be adopted is Sujanawa Religious, Z33, 2022.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes, please.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes. Next resolution, please.
The Plaza at Lightbridge, Z59, 2018.
Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. All
And the
right.
last motion is Z16 Phoenix Realty, Z07, 2023.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. DeVay?
Yes, please.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba?
Yes on the motion. All right. We're good, Rachel?
Mhm.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a regular meeting of the Township of Edison Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board is composed of Edison Township residents appointed by the Municipal Council who volunteer their time in service to the board. The municipal land use law requires that members successfully complete a land use training course administered by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This board also holds in-house training conducted by our board professionals. The zoning board abides by the provisions of the municipal land use law in addition to our board's bylaws. The zoning board is a quasi-judicial land use board, which differs from the township planning board. Under the municipal land use law, board members are required to be impartial and are not allowed to discuss any case prior to its consideration before the board at a hearing. All applicants will have the opportunity to present their case before the board with the opportunity for board members and board professionals to question the applicant and their witnesses. At the conclusion of the applicant's presentation of their case, the case will be open to the public. Residents within 200 feet of the subject property will be heard, followed by residents from outside 200 feet. All residents will be sworn in. They'll provide their name and address, and then will be given 6 minutes to comment on the application being considered, without the opportunity for rebuttal. Residents may ask questions of the applicant's professionals, and board professionals. The board requests that these questions are asked prior to any comments being made on the application. Once commentary begins, the resident's timer will begin. The applicant will be allowed for the opportunity for cross-examination of their witnesses. Under the law, the chair is allowed to stop any comment that is repetitive or is an attempt to filibuster the board. Further, the chair is allowed to stop any commentary that is irrelevant to the case or prohibited from the board's consideration. Once the public portion is closed, all public comment is ended unless new testimony is presented by the applicant. Following the closure of the public portion, the applicant will have the right of summation on their application. Following summation, the case will go to the board for a decision. This procedure has been followed by the board and is similar to the procedures followed by boards of adjustment statewide. The municipal land use law requires the board to engage in a balancing act and is not required to strictly apply township ordinances, zone plan, or master plan. As a board of adjustment, variances are granted when appropriately necessary following all legal considerations. As has been the case with prior boards, this board will see where we are if we are in session around 10:30 p.m. I ask that the applicants, professionals, and residents show respect to each other and be civil throughout all proceedings. I ask that you withhold applause, booing, or interrupting of anyone while they are speaking. With that, Madam Secretary, first case on the agenda, please.
First case is case 09-2023, Fan Kumar Mahavi, Chula, sorry, let me redo that. Fan Kumar and Mahavi Chalavadi, 121 Rolling Brook Drive. Applicant is proposing to construct a two-story addition to the rear of the existing single-family dwelling. The following standards have not been met. Minimum rear yard setback required is 30 feet. Proposed is 16.13 feet. Max building coverage permitted is 23%. Proposed is 41.14%. Max impervious coverage permitted is 40%. Proposed is 51.38%. Max FAR permitted is 0.44. Proposed is 729. Affected property is located in the RB zone, designated as block number 440, lot number 64, in the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Mr. Chairman and Board, with all due respect, our attorney is not here yet. So if it's okay with the board, maybe we can skip our application, revisit it later tonight.
I have no objection to that.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
You should have said that before she went through that whole diatribe.
I didn't want to interrupt and be rude.
It's okay. All right, so we're going to skip case 1 on the agenda, and we will move ahead to case 2.
Okay, case number 2, Z12-2023, Dharmesh Havari, 24 Independence Drive. Applicant is proposing to construct an addition to the existing single-family home. The following standards have not been met. Front yard setback required is 25%. Proposed is 21.83 feet. Max building coverage permitted is 20%. Proposed is 28.7. Max FAR permitted is 37%. Proposed is 38.8%. Affected property is located in the RBB zone, designated as block number 490.06, lot number 47, on the Edison Township tax map. All notice and paperwork is in order.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you'd both just raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And each of you, if you would just pull the microphones closer and state your full name for the record one at a time.
My name is Dharmesh Javeri.
Nisha Javeri.
Okay, and you are the applicants?
That's right.
Okay. All right, so if you'd just like to tell us what you'd like to do and why you'd like to do it?
Okay, so basically we are trying to do some additions to our home. The house that I have, we bought it in 1999, and we have been living there since then. And we intend to live there, for our lives. Basically, the house is small, and it's small for our needs, so we are trying to do some additions, and we are trying to make it more modern. What we are doing is we are trying to add a great room, a dining room, making kitchen a little bit bigger, and we are trying to add a couple of 1.5 bath addition, and also we are trying to extend our bedroom upstairs a little bit. Those are the changes we are planning to do. And the thing is this: the house that we bought in '99, we feel a little bit smaller for our needs now. So that's why we are doing all these additions.
Now, will you be presenting the case yourself, or do you have a professional?
I have architect. My
Professional planner.
professional planner is here, and architect. So.
Okay. Sir?
You want me to introduce myself now?
Yes, please.
My name is Frank, middle initial D, Mileto, Mileto. 14 Beaverbrook Drive, Long Valley, New Jersey. I'm registered architect in the state of New Jersey since 1974.
Hold on.
Sir, if you could
hold
just
on,
actually, if you
hold
could
on.
actually just raise your right hand to be sworn. Thank you.
Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, if you could just do your qualification, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now I'll do the advertisement. Been an architect since 1974 and continuously practiced that profession. I'm also a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, and planner and since 1976. I have before zoning boards and planning boards throughout the state of New Jersey for the last 60 years, and continuing to practice the same beautiful profession of architecture. I'm a former zoning officer for the city of Clifton, former building inspector for the city of Clifton, construction official, and my last job with them was the city manager, an administrative position, which I didn't like. But I got stuck there because I was the acting city manager for the city manager, but he retired. So I did that for several years. Other than that, I think that's enough advertising.
And your license are
All my
current?
licenses are current. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you. Did you complete your testimony?
Yeah, so I will just say basically, see, we have our mother-in-law moving in with us, very soon. She has mobility issues. Plus, I think, my son lives with me. We both work and we work from home 3 days a week. It's as I said before, it's a slab house, so we don't have a basement. And that is why we need a little bit more space. And that is the reason why we are doing all these additions.
Okay. Before we go to the planners, anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. You may proceed.
Thank you. So what we've done is to take a very 2 cents plain home and improve the exterior of both front and rear and sides to add some gables, add an addition to the back room on the second floor. As I see at the survey of the property, we have complied with the setbacks except for front yard setback with a small covered porch in the front of the front door to shelter the front door for guests and for the family. To the rear, you have a first one-story addition. Which comprises of a great room and some expansion back into the rear yard. A great room, a new dining area, a pantry, prayer room, new office, new powder room, and large utility closet. That's all on the first floor, in addition to some alterations to the rear walls to open them up to new modern open living space. The second floor is a smaller addition over the existing footprint, which is has a loft area in the back, an additional toilet, an altered bedroom, and that's the crux of it. It's I'll call it a suite upstairs. Other than that, all we did was create what we thought would be the best for the family. The variances I would list as
Actually, sir, I'm going to hold. So you're about to begin planning testimony?
I'm sorry?
Are you about to begin planning?
Yeah, I'll put
testimony?
my planning hat
All right,
on.
so before you put your planning hat on, just put that in the closet for a second. I'm going to go to the board and see if they have any questions on your architectural.
Architecture, okay.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Mileto with regard to architectural questions? Mr. Stubbe?
Yes, so
Just bring your microphone
the
over.
way your, sorry. The way your drawings indicate, you are just raising the roof in the front and back. Roof
Yes, we're
remain
going
the
to put
same,
gable,
so it's a sloped
gables.
roof gable at the back.
Correct. Front and back.
All right, so the only question I have is, you are exceeding your FAR is good, just the front yard setback is good. The maximum building coverage, you are going from 20 to 28.7%. Is there any way you can bring it down 3.7%? Go around about 25% cut back, and then you can easily cut back. If you look at your first floor, you have your new great room, you have your new dining room, and you have new office and enlarged utility area. If you cut back, bring it down by 4 feet, probably 5 foot, you would be probably within the ratio of 25%.
Well, it was a judgment call because we feel that the benefit of putting the room at the adequate size would overshadow any detriment that it would do to the zone plan or to any neighbors, and therefore not create any negative impacts. Municipal land use law does allow for what I gotta call de minimis. It's 1.8 on the FAR, I believe, and 8.7 on the proposed coverage. It's just, to me, I tried to make the rooms as livable as possible without getting too overboard on the variances. The best description I can give you, they're all B variances, they're all bulk variances, none of them are creating unconditioned situations. So that's why we made that decision to come to the board, speak our piece, give the homeowners the best plan layout we could give them.
There is no
To
other
start
way.
cutting it back, it seems like a little to cut back, but it will make a big difference in the room interiors.
See, based on your lot size, there's nothing around that you can cut back your maximum building coverage. You are asking from 20% to 28.7%, which is almost 40% more than what is allowed.
8.7, yes.
All right, so I'm trying to cut back a little bit so that they can get the benefit of it, and then will not be that much detrimental to the extension that you guys are looking for.
I mean, if we cut back, right, see the whole purpose, we wanted a little bit more area. For example, the great room, right? When we invite friends, current house gets too crowded and all that. So this is the reason why we are trying to, we chose the size that we chose. This is the reason. I mean, if I cut back, right, then I lose quite a bit of an advantage that I will get with this, extra room and all that.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Sir, you can put your planner's hat on.
Thank you. Well, that's our point, is that we tried to make the house the right size rooms, and they encroached a little bit, as I said, into the setback and ordinances, but we thought that de minimis would not, as I said, disrupt the zone plan of Township of Edison or the neighbors. We just rest our case.
Are you going to give any more planning testimony?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to give any more planning testimony?
No, it's a B2 use, bulk variance rather, and it is a special condition that was put into the zoning municipal land use law a few years back, a lot of years back, and it was done to give an opportunity to the applicant to show that the detriment is far outweighed by the improvement, and not requiring a variance or a zoning approval for a use variance. It was just if we can determine it to be de minimis and not be negative, and that the benefits of that to the homeowner, to the building, and to the municipality outweigh any detriment to the ordinance. I understand we have a neighbor here also wants to speak after.
Okay, we'll do that when we get to the public portion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for the planner? Seeing none. Okay. So we will now go out to the public. Anyone within 200 feet of the subject property wanting to be heard, please approach. Ma'am?
Ma'am, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
And state your full name for the record. Provide your address.
My name is Matthew J. Ganesh. I live in 23 Independence Drive, Edison.
Okay, ma'am, you may proceed.
I have taken a look at their plan, and we are okay with it. And I just want to say we do agree on that.
Okay. That's all you have to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else within 200 feet of the subject site who want to be heard? Anyone outside 200 feet? Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed, and I will go to the board.
I just missed that one. Madam. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this application with the 25% maximum building coverage. And the reason being the lot is simply too small for getting this kind of big extension on this lot.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Dave, seconded by Vice Chair O'Gorman. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Dave?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes on the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes.
And Chairman Kumba.
Yes on the motion. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, first case on the agenda.
Case number 1Z09-2023, Pan Kumar and Mahavi Chalavada, 121 Rolling Brook Drive. Applicant is proposing to construct a two-story addition to the rear of the existing single-family dwelling. The following standards have not been met. Minimum rear yard setback required is 30 feet. Proposed is 16.13 feet. Max building coverage permitted is 23%. Proposed is 41.14%. Max impervious coverage permitted is 40%. Proposed is 51.38%. Max FAR permitted is 0.44. Proposed is 0.729. Affected property is located in the RB zone, designated as block number 440, lot number 64, on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Good evening, Mr. Wiley.
Good evening. We have tonight a application requiring a variance for floor area ratio, which triggers a use variance, as well as several bulk variances. We have primarily two witnesses tonight. We have our architect who will testify as to the reason for the size of the structure, and we also have our engineer, who is also a professional planner, so he will be wearing two hats as the prior application had. So at this point, I would like to call, and we also have the applicant here, so if they need any verification about some of the family needs that have dictated this proposed design, they are also here to testify if needed. But at this point, I would like to have the architect sworn in.
Without objection, you may proceed.
Thank you.
You could actually have a seat at the table if you
Oh,
like.
okay. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And please state your full name for the record.
Jennifer Wenson Mayer, Wenson Associates Architects.
And
Okay. Excuse me,
ahead.
Mr. Wiley. And ma'am, if you could please provide your qualifications.
Yes, so I'm a licensed architect since 1985, and I've testified before this board before, also Rawway, Carteret, Westfield, a number of different towns in Union County.
Okay. And your licenses are current and good standing?
Yes, they are.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
thank you. Could you discuss how you became involved in this proposed application?
Yes, the applicant called me. They wanted to put an addition on specifically so that Kumar, the husband, that his parents could move in. There's a handicapped issue with the mom, and she's wheelchair bound, and they want to make sure that she can comfortably get around on the first floor. They've also put in, they're proposing an elevator to be put in also. That's how I was brought in.
Okay. And could we next discuss the proposed floor plan?
Yeah. Could I come a little closer to you guys? Would that be okay?
No, well, the problem is we have the
The easel over here.
Easel,
You could
but-
use the
but-
easel if you could just take the microphone with you.
yeah, you can just, yeah, you can remove the microphone from the stand.
Easier said than done. There we go. Okay. Okay. The reason I wanted to come closer is because what you're seeing on here is actually turning radiuses. So when you think of, if you look at a home and you picture someone who's not handicapped, you know, someone's very easily able to fit through a 2-foot space or, 1'6" space. With a handicapped person, especially wheelchair bound, everywhere they go, they need to turn around to come back out of that space.
Ma'am, one second,
And-
one moment.
Yeah,
Mr.
no, we're going to have to identify what she's pointing to.
Oh, I'm
Right,
sorry.
And
exactly.
I just thought at this point she hadn't referred actually to it.
Oh, I
so
apologize. This is the,
That's-
Turning radiuses, that's why. Is this one of the exhibits that the
This will
board
be
was-
an exhibit, so we're going to have
It's
to
an
mark
addition.
this as A1.
Okay, do
it-
you have any 8.5 by 11s for our records?
No, we don't. But it is essentially, the underlying document is the floor plan that has been submitted to the
So we
board.
have a floor plan, but does it have the same markings as this exhibit?
It doesn't have those pink circles, does it?
Okay, so we just want to make sure that you provide the board secretary
Right.
with a copy
sure.
for our records.
We can do that.
Okay.
And we're going to mark, and I'll mark it later, but we'll mark that reference point as A1.
Yeah, so this is the first floor plan. And when you, I'll start from the front of the building. When you come in, there's an elevator, if you look at your plans. And in front of the elevator, we have a 5-foot turning radius. In the prayer room, we have a 5-foot turning radius. In the kitchen, coming around the counter, and going into the dining room, 5-foot turning radius. Between the two counters, going toward the back family room, we have a turning radius there. anybody could back these chairs up, so it's important to have enough room to move there. In front of the sink and dishwasher and stove and oven, we have a turning radius. You have to imagine that when any one of those doors is open, that person still needs to be able to pass by without fear of getting burnt by the oven door. This area in the back where you see another sink and dishwasher is actually going to be a dropped counter for the mom so that she can feel a part of the kitchen prep. When you come into the pantry, she's also able to make a turning radius in the pantry, in the walk-in closet in their bedroom, at the entrance to their bedroom, between the bed and their seating area, in their bathroom, in their shower, and also on the patio. When they're coming through the family room, they have a 4-foot opening. The most narrow place, depending on furniture, would be 3 feet between 2 coffee tables, depending on how furniture is laid out in that room. But other than that, they can turn in front of the seating, they can turn on the other side of the seating, and going around the breakfast room, no matter where they're sitting, they can pull out and turn and move. They have a 4-foot corridor to go back into the kitchen. They have a 4-foot corridor to go into the laundry room and 3 feet in front of the machines. So the most upsetting thing for a senior is to not be able to feel like they're a productive part of the family, that they're there to help, they're there to help cook, they're there to be a part of any celebration. The other thing is that the worst thing for someone who is disabled is to feel like a second-class citizen, that they can't go everywhere else that the rest of the family can go. And that is what dictated the design, was to make sure that we have 3-foot doors, that we have the proper width of corridors, that we have the proper turning radius for these seniors that will be moving in. We also have an elevator so that they feel like they can maneuver anywhere in the home to be a part of the kids upstairs, to be a part of anything going on in the basement. So I realize that it may seem that this is a big ask, but I think when you consider who the occupants are, I would just like you to take that into consideration. Thank you.
I think if we could then identify those areas where we are making an addition from the existing building.
Yes, so the existing building is shown in dotted lines. So the addition is primarily the area of the parents' bedroom, the family room, and the breakfast room, because the breakfast area they have right now is within the kitchen and it's very tight. It only allows for 4 seats and there's 6 people in the family. So we did provide a breakfast room, and then we provided the accessory areas to the kitchen, mostly over in this side area where we put the washer dryer, so that everything is accessible on the same floor, so that the mom can still go in, get into the laundry room or the pantry, that everything is in one area.
And on the second floor?
Yeah, the second floor is the children's bedrooms and one small additional bedroom. Sometimes, they'll have a visitor come in from India and the person will be there for a month because of how long the travel distance is, that people will come in and stay for a little while longer than if it was, a shorter flight. So that's, and each, I took advantage of the fact that we had a larger footprint to be able to provide a little bit of a larger bedroom for each of the girls so that they had their own bathroom and their own walk-in closet, which is pretty typical of homes, new homes being built today. And we did provide a small sitting area so that you know, they could have a place to study and be upstairs where it's quiet.
And can you describe the proposed exterior?
Yes, we have, I wanted to use something very durable, so we have, and attractive. So primarily, we have the brick that was existing on the front, and we also have hardy board, which is very mold resistant, weather resistant, and we continued that along the sides. And then on the back, we have a little bit more decorative treatment with some stucco type accents, and also with some siding, hardy board siding, and some stone around the parents. I wanted to give them a little patio to go out onto.
I have no further questions to this witness.
Does the board have any questions for the architect?
Yes, I have a question.
Vice Chairman?
The floor area ratio required is 0.44, and you're proposing 0.729. How do we get closer to 0.44?
I would say that if you were going to make any modification, I would suggest that it be something on the second floor, not on the first floor, so that we can still accommodate the parent, or the parents, I should say, because really, this is the heart of the home, and the upstairs is primarily bedrooms, and bedrooms for the Kumar and his wife, Madhavi, also. And we do have, I just want to point out that we do, the entire back area behind them is designated open space. I believe in perpetuity, it's county-owned. And I'm not positive it's Green Acres, but I know it's county-owned land.
We'll have the engineer address those issues about the lot coverage, lot size, and FAR, other than, you know, what can be done about the size of the proposed structure.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
I don't know where to begin. This is simply too big of a house on a lot that you have. If I want to propose something and you want to come back, can I do something like, can I propose something, or we continue with the?
I would suggest we continue, and I would appreciate Ms. Shah's consideration, but I think we should allow them to continue, and then we can.
I mean, I think Mr. Wiley already understands what the board is.
I understand what the board's saying.
No.
So.
You want a moment with your
Yeah, well, let me
client?
discuss with a moment. It may make sense to hear the entire application and then suggest what we could do as an alternative, and then based on that, come back with different architectural drawings.
If you'd like to do that rather than piecemeal, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
all right?
All right.
Mr. Wiley, I think the lot coverage is the most glaring aspect here. So if in your revision that's addressed, I would be pleased with that.
All right.
Ms.
Well,
Brown,
the
we're going to get through that in the
difficulty- yeah,
engineering.
The difficulty, and perhaps Mr. DuPont should address that, that's our engineer, but the difficulty there is that if we want to address the needs of the handicapped parents, then you're going to have a lot coverage issue, just no way around it. Now, you could reduce the floor area ratio problem by doing something on the second floor where the where the first generation will not be living. But, you know, if you have
Mr. Wiley, could you bring the microphone closer to you, please?
Oh, if you have a footprint, you're, you know, for the first floor, that's what dictates the lot coverage. So I think there would be more problems with the lot coverage than with the floor area ratio, frankly.
You know, you also have a concrete patio on the backside for the impervious as well. So
That's a permeable.
yeah, there's a lot more. So once I hear the testimony from your engineer,
Yeah,
probably we'll have a lot
I
more
think we need
questions.
to do that, and we could probably have more constructive discussion.
Before the architect steps down, does anybody have any other architectural questions?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. DuPont's going to be testifying.
DuPont, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And state your full name for the record.
My name is John P. DuPont.
And Mr. DuPont, if you could just provide your qualifications.
Certainly. So I'm a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a certified municipal engineer. I've got my license about 28 years now. I've been before this board as an expert. I've also served as the planning and zoning board engineer for Carteret for the past 28 years. I've been throughout the state. As far as a professional planner, I'm also a professional planner by examination. I've appeared in front of this board as a planner before. I've prepared witnesses, testimony in front of boards throughout the state as a planner as well.
And your licenses are current and in good standing?
They are.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DuPont, can you state your involvement with this particular application?
Absolutely. I prepared the site plan and the grading plan for submission to the board, and I also have prepared planning testimony.
Could you advise the board of the existing conditions that exist there now on the property?
Absolutely. And I think I'll go over to the easel if that's okay. So on the easel, I have sheet 3 of the submitted set. It's exactly what was submitted to the board. So the existing additions, just briefly, the lot is 75 by 102. There's a single-family home on that dwelling now. The current owners live on site, want to continue to live on site. They're very familiar with the neighborhood and the community, and very comfortable there. The rear of the property currently has a built-in pool and a patio in the rear. And there are a couple of existing violations. So the maximum building coverage allowable in the zone is 23%. The existing additions is 26.01. The maximum impervious area allowable is 40%. The existing is 59%. So a couple of existing violations, established house, and we understand the backyard. The proposed project, again, is for, as you heard, it's for the applicant to bring in their elderly parents to live with them. So they are going to remove the patio and the pool in the backyard and construct an addition out the back. Basically, we're trading pool and backyard, pool and patio for the addition. So it doesn't quite extend out as far, but that area is completely impervious now. So they currently have a planted buffer along the rear of the property that will remain. We're not proposing on clearing any vegetation out. We're not disturbing any buffers. This is all impervious coverage now. The proposed addition will increase the gross floor area from 3,206 square feet to 5,006 square feet. So it is significant. However, the impervious coverage will actually be reduced. So I know, wearing my engineering hat right now, one thing we're always worried about is runoff impact on adjacent properties, increase in stormwater runoff. We're actually reducing the impervious coverage, no adverse impacts from runoff to the neighbors. The addition does create several variances though. So we talked to you about the existing building coverage variance. Allowable is 23, existing 26, proposed now becomes 41%. The maximum impervious coverage allowable is 40, existing was 59, we've reduced it down to 51%. So we've reduced that impervious. The rear yard setback allowable is 30 feet, new variance, we're proposing 16 feet to the rear. And then the floor area ratio, allowable 0.44, we're proposing, as you heard, 0.729. So from an engineering standpoint, first, pretty basic project. It's an addition out the rear of the property, doesn't extend closer to either side property, doesn't impact the buffer, doesn't get closer to a neighbor. The addition is strictly out the back. This is a special site in the fact that this site backs up to county open space. if you're familiar with the property, and I can go to the cover, there's a large property to the rear, which is lot 21G-1 on the rear of the property. It's all wooded. It's county open space. Never going to have anything back there. There's no neighbors back there, so there's no effect to the rear of the property. We're going to make sure that that existing buffer, which is there now, we're going to fill in it and make it consistent anyway. So from an engineering standpoint, pretty easy. Not really much going on here. The planning testimony I'll go to next, much more detail. But if you have any engineering questions, I'm here.
I'll take care of that. Does anyone have any engineering questions for Mr. Dupont? Mr. Dave?
The pool and the concrete deck, they're existing?
They're existing. And it's basically the entire rear yard.
All right, so how are you bringing your impervious coverage from 59 to 51%? What are you reducing?
We're taking out the pool and the entire patio, and the remaining area between the addition and the back property line, we're putting porous pavers.
Okay, so where the pool is, you're putting porous pavers?
That's right, in the patio, yes.
Okay, and so that would bring you down to 51%?
That's correct.
Okay. And what can you do to reduce your FAR?
I think you've heard, and I'm not an architect, but we did hear some compelling testimony from
Yes,
the
you did.
architect. Perhaps the board will look at that second floor. And I'll go into planning testimony on it, but maybe we're certainly not and forgive me, this is not a builder on a small lot building an oversized house for profit. This is a very special case. This is a family that is obviously very close, that has elderly parents coming to live with them that are handicapped and wheelchair bound. So the municipal land use law talks about special conditions. This is what it's talking about. This is special conditions. So, well, I'll go through planning testimony, but I feel pretty strongly about that.
Okay. I certainly understand the hardship and the family issues, and I know what purpose they want to extend it, but just simply asking from 0.37 allowed to 0.72 is simply almost double.
I understand. But I think when we go through it, I think I'm going to explain to you how there's going to be no impacts on the neighbors.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any other engineering questions?
Mr. Dupont.
Mr. Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Dupont, you said that with the impervious coverage, it goes from 59 to 51, which Mr. Devenger just elaborated on, and the building coverage existing is 26, but proposed is 41. What is the rear yard setback existing?
Existing, it's 33. And it's going to 16.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brown, do you have any other questions?
I just want to elaborate. Mr. Pont, Mr. Wiley, there are challenges to the application in the building coverage and especially the FAR. And I know that the board is considering some time for you guys to revise or amend or whatever. So I think that would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Dupont as an engineer? No? Okay. Mr. Dupont, you may proceed.
Thank you. So for planning, I'm going to break it into 3 segments. Again, you've heard me explain the project. I like to talk about the 2 existing non-conforming conditions. So maximum impervious coverage, we are actually improving. We are reducing the impervious coverage from 59 to 51%, as we spoke about. The maximum building coverage, we're expanding from 26 to 41. The new C variance, those are both bulk variances. There's one additional new bulk variance, and that's the rear yard setback. Allowable is 30 feet, proposed is 16.13. So I think if we look at the C2 provision with respect to the bulk variances, we have a client who lives on the site and wants to continue to do that. The property is within a residential neighborhood with housing on each side and county open space to the rear. The project will have no negative impacts on the side yard neighbors because the side yard setbacks are not being increased in any way. There's no additions to the sides back towards the rear, towards the county space. So we feel there'll be no impact. We know there's no runoff, increase in runoff in the project. The side yard neighbors won't see any negative impact. The impervious coverage is being reduced. We will reduce the runoff, as we said, and we'll make sure that the buffer in the back stays green. Basically trading a patio and a pool for an addition. We feel that the several purposes of the MLUL will be advanced by the project. Purpose A, C, and B, and I'm not going to bore the chairman of the board with all of them, but let me just put in purpose A, if I can. To encourage municipal action to guide appropriate use of land development in a manner which promotes public safety, health, and general welfare. I'll even go to C, to provide adequate light, air, and open space. We are proposing a significant addition. We are going and proposing a significant rear yard setback violation. Again, though, you've heard me say it numerous times, to an open county space that will not be developed. Clearly, the benefits from the project we feel will not have any negative impacts on the surrounding properties, can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. The only property that would even be able to see a difference would be the county open space. Because it's clear that the variance does not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan. We have current owners looking to expand their dwelling. They like the neighborhood. They're familiar with the neighborhood. They want to stay right where they are. And for that reason, I think there's no negative impacts. Now, the reason why we're in front of your board, and probably the most difficult lift, as you're well aware, is the floor area ratio. Floor area ratio is 0.44 allowable. We are proposing 0.729. You've seen the size of the addition. We're in front of your board because of that, and we must address the positive and negative criteria. Positive criteria, we're expanding a home for this family. This is special circumstances. This is not a unique family. This is a family that's going to bring in an older generation that is limited. You had an architect do a very detailed plan. Quite frankly, I was pretty impressed by the plan. She thought of every turn and groove around the house and then thought about the adjoining neighbors to the sides. I think she did a terrific job on the plans, and it works. I know it sounds like it's too big, but don't just look at the number. Look at what the purpose is, who they're going to impact, and the design of it. I think it's a terrific design. We think no negative impacts. The site is particularly well suited for the expansion. The expansion happens to be right to the backyard. No one's going to notice that expansion. I don't see any negative impacts. I feel the MOU will be advanced, as I previously stated. I feel that granting the relief will result in no substantial detriment to the public good. The benefits to this family far outweighs any detriment. Finally, I would say that granting the variance will not substantially impair the intent or purpose of your zone plan or zoning ordinance. MLUL talks about special conditions for D variances. This is special conditions. And this is a case that I know the math looks terrible. Just think about the change, what it's for, and where it's going to be seen. In front of it, when you drive past the house, you won't even know. You won't see it. The side neighbors, it won't be extended to the side yards. So I think it's really a well-done plan, and that does conclude my planning testimony.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Dubant with regard to planning testimony?
The elevator does not go in the basement, does it?
Excuse me?
Elevator does not go in the basement, does it?
It does.
It does? I do not see that on the drawing. Okay, I don't see it. Okay, it does go.
It does.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other planning testimony for Mr. Dupont? Okay, thank you. Dupont. Mr. Wiley?
That concludes our testimony. We can go out to the public. I think that might be helpful.
Yes, sir. All right, we will now go out to the public. If there's anyone within 200 feet of the subject property wanting to be heard, please approach.
Sir,
Sir?
would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
And state your full name for the record, providing...
Srinivasala
Hold on,
Valluru.
hold.
Oops.
State
Sorry.
your full name for the record and provide your address.
Srinivasala Valluru, 113 Rolling Brook Drive, Edison, New Jersey, 08820.
Okay, sir, you may proceed. You have 6 minutes.
I have been looked at this proposal on it. I'm living next 2 doors away from their house, and I don't have any objection on it.
Do you have anything else to add? That's
it, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else within 200 feet of the subject property wanting to be heard? Is there anyone outside of 200 feet of the subject property wanting to be heard? Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion, close public session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed. Does the board have any commentary prior to a motion? Mr. Dave, if you just bring the microphone.
Should I propose something? What would they accept, or do they want to come back, or they want to vote?
Why don't you give your thoughts and then?
Okay. I would say that instead of .37 FAR, you're looking for .729. I would go up to .50. And I understand the hardship and everything, but this lot is not meant for this big house. And total floor area, you have 3,200 square foot now. You're proposing 5,600 square feet on this lot, 100 by 70?
75.
75 by 102.
Yeah, 75, 102. I can add another 30%, 35%, go up to 4,300 square foot home. The impervious coverage, I think, just because you are filling the pool and putting the pervious pavers, I think I would leave that the way it is, 51%. I think it should be fine.
If I could consult with my clients, we'll try to get back here in about 5 minutes if that's...
Sure.
Sure, yeah, we can give you 5 minutes. All right, so it's 7:59, so we'll give you to 8:05.
Thank you.
All right. Wait, actually, hang on one second, Mr. Wiley. Does anybody else on the board have any other commentary with regard to this? Any suggestions, requests? Okay, all right. With that, you have to 8:05. Thank you very much. The board stands adjourned until 8:05. All right, we're back in session. Mr. Wiley.
Yes, I've consulted with my client. I think what we would like to do is to carry this hearing to, I think we have a meeting available in July, come back with a new floor plan and see if we can accommodate some of the ideas that the board has along with my client's needs and see what number we come back with.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
Second.
So we're
Wait,
gonna,
wait, you're not the Madam Secretary.
I'm sorry.
Don't try and up yourself. Madam Secretary.
so we're gonna carry them to July 25th, 2023.
All right. Yeah, that works for you and your client,
Yes,
Mr. Wiley.
yes.
Mr. Dupont, that works for you?
Yes, I'm just bringing back the architect. I'm not bringing back.
Okay, all right, so it works for the architect. All right, perfect. Okay, all right, so anyone here and for anyone listening at home, this case will be carried until July 25th, 2023, with no renotice required. And with that, have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
July 25th.
Okay.
Madam Secretary, next case on the agenda, please.
Case number 3, Z3 2021, 401 Division Street LLC, 401 Division Street. Applicant is proposing preliminary and final site plan approval to demolish the existing structures and construct a 2-story apartment building. Standards have not been met in accordance with the master plan. Affected property is located in the RB zone, designated as block number 82, lot number 3.02 on the Edison Township tax map. All noticing paperwork is in order.
Good evening, Mr. Shire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Bernard Shire with the firm of Convery and Shire, representing the property owner and applicant 401 Division Street LLC. The property in question is 401 Division Street, Block 82, formerly Lot 3B. It is now Block 82.14, Lot 3.02, under the new Edison designation system. It's in the RB zone, and it is approximately a half-acre lot, which is presently overgrown with an old 2-family home on the property. The surrounding area is basically non-residential with a church parking lot, a school, open township space, and there are single-family homes on Sims Road, which is to the west across Division Street. The proposal is to demolish and construct a new 2-story, 8-unit apartment building with 6 2-bedroom units and 2 one-bedroom unit. We've eliminated, based upon recommendations from your township planner, we've eliminated the dens that were previously proposed. We've eliminated 1 unit. It was originally proposed as 9 units, thereby lowering the density. The only variances left are the use variance, since it is an apartment building in the RB zone, and the density, which exceeds that which would be in the single-family zone. And the maximum impervious coverage, which permitted is 40%, we're proposing 62.1% to allow for sufficient off-street parking. Based upon recommendations of your planner, we've also reduced the FAR, so we now more than comply. The required is 0.44. We are now proposing 0.36. I have with me this evening Chris Zalay of Menlo Engineering, a professional engineer, Greg Waga, the architect, who can testify as to the quality of the building that's proposed, as well as the basic structure. We have Betsy Dolan, a traffic engineer, John Takina, a professional planner, and also Rocky Shah, who is the principal of the LLC. Unless there are any preliminary questions, I'm ready to proceed.
Without objection, you may proceed.
Call Chris Zalay.
Hi, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Yes, my name is Christopher Saleh. Last name is S as in Sam, Z as in Zebra, A-L-A-Y.
And if you could provide your qualifications, please.
Yes, I currently work at Menlo Engineering Associates, located at 261 Cleveland Avenue in Highland Park, New Jersey. I received a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Rhode Island in 2008, and I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 2013, and I've testified before this board before.
And your licenses are current and in good standing?
Yes, they are.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Zalay, Menlo Engineering was hired by the applicant to prepare the engineering site plan for this application.
That's correct.
Could you please advise the board what the current condition and location of the property is?
Absolutely. So I will proceed to mark into evidence two exhibits that we have prepared for you this evening. The first exhibit is entitled 401 Division Street. It's an existing conditions exhibit dated May 23rd, 2023. I can mark this in as Exhibit A1. And the second exhibit is also entitled 401 Division Street, site plan exhibit dated May 23rd, 2023. This exhibit depicts the submitted site plan as a colorized rendering over an aerial background that shows the existing conditions surrounding the site with the landscaping shown as well. And that I will mark as Exhibit A2. Going back to Exhibit A1, which is an aerial exhibit depicting the existing conditions with the property boundary highlighted, as well as some of the surrounding areas, shown on an aerial per Bing Maps. And for the purposes of my descriptions, north will be pointed left on this exhibit. The property is designated as Block 82, Lot 3-B, as shown on the tax map for the Township of Edison. It contains approximately 88 feet of frontage on Division Street, on the east side of Division Street, which is a one-way street that connects Route 27 with Plainfield Avenue. Overall, the property is approximately 0.47 acres in area, and it's located entirely within the RB residential zone. To the north of the property, we have the parking lot associated with the middle school, Thomas Jefferson Middle School. I think it's Thomas Jefferson Middle School across Division Street. Located on the west side of Division Street is the middle school. To the east is the Edison Township Rec Department, and to the south is the Stelton Park, followed by single-family homes to the south of the park, as well as to the west of Division Street. The property as it stands today is currently occupied by a two-story single-family home, as well as a detached garage and driveway. The lot is partially wooded and provides open space along the frontage of the property. There's currently no access from Division Street. It's one of the odd things of this property. The only access way is actually through the adjacent parking lot via an access easement. Now, what the site plan proposes is to demolish the existing single-family dwelling and detached garage and eliminate that access easement and access from the adjacent property in order to construct a two-story, 8-unit apartment building that is approximately 3,664 square feet in area. Now, the single-family zone is now requires a use variance for the multi-unit apartment building, and as well for the density of 17.08 units per acre, where 5.8 is permitted. The building is to be located along the northerly property line. It meets all requirements for setbacks, side yard, rear yard, as well as front yard. And also for maximum building height, 2.5 stories is permitted where 2 stories is provided, and FAR of 0.36 where 0.44 is permitted. And as I stated, the site will now be accessed from Division Street. A 2-way, 24-foot wide drive aisle is provided near the midpoint of the lot frontage to provide access to 18 9 by 18 parking spaces, including 1 ADA accessible space located on the south side of the property. The building per RSIS requires 16 spaces, so the site is designed to comply with the township and RSIS standards. The applicant's also proposing to provide sidewalk along the frontage of the property on Division Street, as well as along the entire frontage of the building to provide access within the building, as well as comply with ADA requirements for accessibility. Dumpster enclosure is provided at the end of the driveway to the east end of the property. It is a masonry enclosed dumpster enclosure on a concrete pad. And the only other variance that is being for approval this evening is for impervious coverage, where 40% is permitted. We're providing 62.1%. In regards to stormwater management, since this is not a major development, we're not providing more than an acre of disturbance or increasing impervious coverage by more than a quarter acre. We are not triggering the stormwater management rules. But we are seeking to provide some treatment of the runoff by way of a 6-inch deep rain garden near the northwest corner of the property that will treat and infiltrate runoff from the building roof as well as from some of the grassed area in that region of the property. The remaining runoff will sheet flow over the parking lot towards Division Street. This design maintains the existing drainage pattern. The entire site currently drains and grades towards Division Street. So we are maintaining that drainage pattern, which is one of the objectives of any engineering site plan. So the design meets all requirements for stormwater, and in regards to other utilities for sanitary sewer, we're tying into the existing sanitary sewer in Sims Road. So there will be a short sewer main extension, and all water, electric, and gas connections can be made from Division Street. In regards to landscaping, a tree plot or a site visit was made to provide tree replacement calculations. The applicant's providing 7 shade trees, 19 evergreens, 6 flowering trees, 62 shrubs, and 59 ground cover in order to meet and comply with the tree replacement calculations. And 38 trees are required per the tree replacement calculations. In regards to lighting, the site has been designed to be safe and adequate per the township ordinance. The applicant's providing 5 pole-mounted lights mounted at 12 feet high that are LED fixtures, and 1 wall-mounted light at 11.5 feet above grade for an average of 2.23 foot candles, a minimum of 0.5 foot candles, and an average to minimum uniformity ratio of 4.46 to 1 within all parking area and drive aisles, which complies with the township requirements. And that really sums up my testimony. The review letters from the professionals, we don't have any objections to. If there's any specific comments that you would like me to address, I can, but we did not find that we had any issues with the review letters.
Mr. Carley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Zalai. How are you?
Good, Mr. Carley.
Good, good. Just to go through stormwater, well, actually through the report. To go through the report. Here you go.
I was thinking the same thing she was.
to go
Mr.
through. I know. She called me on it.
Thank you for that.
She used to be a baseball mom when I was a baseball dad, so.
I'm a baseball coach, so you got to talk up.
Baseball moms know a little bit more about baseball than baseball dads.
I know, I'm sitting next to a baseball mom here.
Anyway, we'll go on to pedestrian and vehicular traffic when your traffic testimony is provided, as we will with parking. I'm just going to stormwater management. Now, for the board's edification, the proposal calls for a significant amount of the drainage to go into a rain garden, which is consistent with the current iteration of the NJDEP regulations for major projects. You have no problem with providing us with calculations like we asked for in comment 5.2?
Sure, we can provide calculations.
Okay. The big thing, though, the big sort of takeaway is Division Street and Hillside Avenue. You discharge flows from your parking lot overland, and it may be the way it exists today, but there's always room for improvement. But you're going to discharge to the curb line on Hillside, and then you're relying on gutter flow for about 300 foot to an inlet at the intersection of Hillside and Division. Are there any ways you can make that a little bit better?
Being that that's the existing condition, unless the township is requiring us
Could be
to
better.
possibly provide an additional inlet. I mean, we're handling some runoff on site to the best of our ability with the rain garden. But, you know, we're willing to work with your office.
Yeah, obviously you don't want icing in the gutter line, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure, understood. We could provide a calculation to determine, you know, depth within the gutter line, if the new runoff will stay within the gutter line. But again, if you're looking for improvements within Division Street to possibly handle some of the runoff, you know, provide a new inlet and connection point to.
That's what we'll be looking for.
Then.
What was the old rule of thumb when you first started working? 300 foot between inlets, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's about where you're at. So take a hard look at that, please.
Sure.
In terms of other utility, sanitary waste, water supply, do you have capacities?
We can take a look. I believe it's an 8-inch line within Sims Road that we'll be tying into. So, you know, we'll be providing an 8-inch extension. Okay. You know, there's an existing home there today that I believe, I'm actually not sure where the existing septic goes to, but we'll be tying in.
Yeah, there's a lot of informal arrangements out there. Mm-hmm. And relative to section 6 of my report, pages 4 and 5, in terms of generating the necessary reporting, you don't anticipate a problem with that, do you?
No, we're happy to comply with those
okay,
items.
And you're going to have the township standard details, I'm sure. Any other utilities, transformers?
We don't anticipate a transformer.
Okay. Emergency generators?
No.
Okay. Hot box?
No.
Okay. If you do end up having those features, just make sure you locate them on the plan, and Mr. Bignell is happy with your landscaping.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then there's design considerations, which I'm sure the board will take a look at those comments that I offer and talk to your architect relative to those matters.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carley. Mr. Bignell.
Mr. Chairman,
Loud and clear. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned with some of the testimony I think that Skip had provided, saying that the dens or the bedrooms were eliminated, or their dens were eliminated on the plan. What was that space used for or incorporated into? Do we increase the bedroom count at all from the original plan, or?
The original plan was for 9 units. The current plan is for 8 units.
Okay. And then I also suggested that the dens be eliminated Because they were going to be used as bedroom
The
spaces?
beds are being eliminated,
And
yes.
so what's that space on the plan going to be? You have an architect going to talk about that tonight, or?
I just know that it reduced the FAR from what was exceeded 0.44 down to 0.36.
Well, my concern was the parking. That's why I'm asking the question.
We do have an architect here that can testify to that.
So the parking, is that changed at all from the original plan? or
No,
is it numbered?
we have sufficient parking under the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if you go through my report, I have a lot of concerns with the type of use on the property. So there's a lot of questions on D variances and things of that nature. They've reduced it in places, but they still have to justify, why it's particularly suited and, is it in conflict with the master plan, which I believe it is. Those are like Medici things that need to be adjusted or applied to this application. And then I guess the appearance of I guess these architectural things that I really have some issues with. The irrigation for the landscape, are you going to provide an irrigation system if it's approved?
If it's required, we can provide irrigation.
Well, it's in my report. Are you going to do it or not? I don't want to chase you around. You testify that it is or it isn't. I mean, I don't.
Okay with that? Yes, we'll provide irrigation.
The utilities, including cables, telephone, internet, shall be shown and installed underground. Is that something that's a problem?
No.
How about the hot box? Where are you going to put those?
The
Transformers.
Typically, the hot box required if the building's greater than 100 feet from the right-of-way line, which it's not. So we'll be metering the building, either I think a bank of meters on the building. So
Have you spoken to the water company about that?
not yet, no.
Okay, because they may require the hot box and the right of way and up in the front of the property. We don't want that, so that's going to be an issue. The meters on the building, are they going to be blended into the building? So see a bank of 9 electrical meters. They're going to be the same color. Because usually they're gray and the building is brown or something. It looks ridiculous, and so that would be something that I would require you to do.
Okay.
Then, I guess we're talking about the hot box, the bike storage. You provide any bike storage?
We're going to provide a bike rack. It hasn't been shown on the plan yet, but we will comply with that comment.
How about the recreation area? Is there something on the site?
We discussed with the TRC to provide somewhat of a barbecue area with porous pavers in the back of the site. We haven't made that change to the site plan, but we're happy to provide that.
Well, it's you're providing 9 families or 8 families. There has to be some outdoor space if you have more than one bedroom. I mean, I don't want to. If I was living there, I want to just sit in my apartment all day. That's why I have a problem with this, because I don't think the property is large enough for what they want to do. I think they need to make it a lot smaller.
And if there's porous pavers in the back, it then reduces the amount of green space, and there's not much green space there to begin with.
That's the problem when you're trying to stuff all this stuff into an RB zone property. So those are my issues so far. The affordable housing stuff. You have to comply with affordable housing. I want that on the record that you're going to comply with the number of units that are required, and that we don't have any kind of confusion later on, because everybody comes back and says, I didn't know all about it, and there's a requirement for affordable housing. You may have to give up units, not just money, into the fund. So I want them to understand that. Trash enclosure, things of that nature, are they all they're going to be like manual doors and stuff that'll be self-closing, or how's that?
We'll provide self-closing doors.
Okay. And all my landscape items, like, the size of the shrubs, the evergreen trees, the number of the species, things like that. All right? I mean, that'll all be in compliance as well.
We'll be happy to comply with those comments.
So, Mr. Chairman, I've gone through my report in terms of if I was going to design this project as if it were in a multifamily zone, but you guys have still to determine the validity of their request for the D variances, and there's several. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bignell. I'm going to go to the board. Does the board have any questions for the engineer?
Yes, so, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bignell, what they're proposing is the impervious coverage required is 40%. They're proposing 60%, 20% more, which is almost like 50% more. The only way I think that they can improve the impervious coverage is reducing the parking space and making create more pervious coverage. The currently there's all grassy areas, correct? So basically all the water that comes there is percolates in the ground, correct?
We have the two structures and we have the driveway in the back of the site.
I understand, but they're creating runoff and that goes burden on the system for the township, correct?
Right.
Or the county.
It sheets over the grass into Division Street.
Correct. So I would like to improve the pervious coverage so the water can percolate in the ground. In doing that, I would only see that, you reduce the way you are telling me here, the 50% of the parking space would go down, and that would go, the number of units go down as well.
Correct. Yeah, the only way to reduce impervious coverage would be to reduce the units.
All right.
Because
Okay.
we're essentially meeting the parking requirement with, 2 guest spaces.
So I don't know whether you heard this or not, but
What you have to understand is what you're comparing apples to oranges, because they have to get variances to the zone they're in. So that's an RB zone, and that's set up for a single-family house. So those standards are different than the standards that would be set up for a multifamily project. I didn't include them in my report to show you what they would look like in a multifamily zone. But we don't have multifamily zones that are 20,000 square feet. So that's the issues with some of this stuff. And sometimes it's more technical, more time it's, the runoff, things like that, the green space, that's why you have to, kind of be really zeroed in on the why it's particularly suited. The Medici stuff that talks about, is it in compliance with the master plan? Those are the findings that you have to find or be satisfied with before you can kind of grant that.
and they're taking multiple D variances as well, correct?
There's D variances for the height. We're still at a D variance for the floor area ratio. I believe, aren't we? We eliminated that one.
We eliminated floor area ratio and the height. The only D variances are the density and the use.
Okay, but see, that's the crux of this. On a 20,000 square foot lot, you might get 3 houses. Might, if they had frontage and all the improvements and everything. We're at 8, so there's issues here, and you have to kind of be satisfied with their testimony.
And we do have our planner here who will provide some.
Yeah, so that's what you have to listen to their argument and be convinced.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chair, I listened to Mr. Bignell a minute ago and have read his report, which is glaring in terms of the comments that he cited, and again this evening, and I refer to the letter of October 6th. And I'm sitting here listening to your presentation about landscape and lighting and shrubs, transformers, hot boxes, and yet I agree with Mr. Bignell. It circumvents the main issue that this has been a single-family plot for 75 years, and we're jumping ahead to how pretty it's going to look and how it's going to go and how water's going to transverse and all of that. But I see that, I'm feeling that we missed the point of this is not an approved use. So everything beyond that is not making sense to me.
Right. Well, I think the point of my testimony is to introduce the application and what the improvements, what we're seeking approval for. The additional testimony by the architect, by the planner, by the traffic engineer, I think will provide some additional information in that regard. This is really kind of, the engineering for this site plan, not being a major development, it's not that heavy of a lift. It's kind of teeing it up for the heavier items.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for the engineer? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Shar.
Thank you. Call Greg Waga.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Yes, Gregory, middle initial J, Waga, W-A-G-A, 2109 St. George Avenue, Rahway, New Jersey.
If you could please give your qualifications.
Yes, sir. Graduate of NGIT many, many years ago, 87, practicing in good standing in this and 8 other states since 1995 in this state and 8 others over the course of my career. and have testified in front of this board, not recently, but I've been here a number of times, as well as many other boards in the state.
And your licenses are current and in good standing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mr. Waga, you've been retained by the applicant to design the building for this project?
Yes, sir.
And could you please give the board an overview of what we propose?
Yes, if I may. I do have one special exhibit, which I'll mark A3. The other drawings, if I may approach the board to distribute.
If you could bring them down to the board secretary.
Sure.
Thank you.
There's enough for each of you. The other sheets, as I was alluding to, are in fact those that were prepared and submitted in advance of this testimony. So as my colleague Chris had alluded to, we have a structure here that is comprised of 8 units, 6 2-bedrooms, 2 1-bedrooms. The structure itself will have a partial basement to allow for private storage on site, minimal storage for each of the tenants, as well as an individual washer dryer, which is also located down in the basement level to accommodate and act as an amenity for this specific use. Let me just get my glasses on here. The units vary in size from about 820 square feet in a 2-bedroom, very modest size, up to about 1,100 square feet for the upper units, which are inclusive of an open loft area, which looks down onto the living space and again creates a more inviting, habitable area. The bedrooms on the ground level are bedroom number 1. The larger bedroom is 13.5 by 11. The second bedroom is 12.9 by 11. There's a 1-bath for each of the units, a small kitchen area with the necessary utilization for a center island for seating for 2, a very, very modest dining area at about 7 by 9, and again, a small living area. Common vestibule, which exists for the 2 end units on the right and on the left. Division Street plan view here is on your left side, and then a center stair accessing or providing access to the units on the second floor. I'll spin that to sheet A2.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt real quick.
Mr. McNeil?
Yeah, the loft. What's the loft going to be? What's that for?
The loft is just additional living space.
What kind of living space? So they're not going to be able to turn that into a bedroom, are they?
No, because it's open to the first floor, as I alluded to, Mr. Bignell. It's open to this. There are no closets. There is only a limited use of 7-foot ceiling height on that level.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil.
And the remainder of that area is used for storage, unfinished storage space. So the second floor units, a little larger in size. We have unit 8. And again, there is a key or a unit count and a key key to the floor plans in each of the units and their square footages in the lower right-hand corner next to the title block. We do have a common corridor. This is the common center stair here to the lower left. We're looking at the second floor plan with a common corridor, which is open and nicely lit out to the parking area, and then provides access to the end units as well as the interior units. The building will be wood framed, will be very nicely apportioned on the exterior with hardy plank above, about 3 feet above grade. There'll be a stone base. Colors have yet to be determined. I know Mr. Bignell's concern of the meter color, coordinating colors with the meters. We'll make that work some way, shape, or form. We're looking for neutral colors. Whether they're browns or grays, we're not sure yet. We haven't decided. But the render itself, which I can go to now, which is the special exhibit that I alluded to a second ago, offers the brown and gray tones mixed. We're looking at what is A5R, and I'll mark that. I think we're on exhibit A3. So I'll mark that now. And again, we're looking at a building here that complements and provides two approaches. We've got the parking lot side with the center hall entry for access to the second floor. We've got the flanking right and left entries accessing the first floor units. The front facade, which is located at the lower portion of sheet A5R, again, provides for a very, what we think is a very aesthetic approach and something that is scaled down to the prior application. We've provided for a gable end dormer with numerous windows, and again, complementing it with various residential style building elements, really creating a very warm appearance. The building, getting back to the characteristics, all colors can be submitted for approval, either to Mr. Bignell or through your office. Also, the building will be fully sprinklered at all 3 levels. And that is the conclusion of my testimony.
Does anyone on the board have any questions? Mr. Bignell.
I don't want to be facetious here, but I know we're close to Camp Kilmer, but does it have to look like Camp Kilmer? I mean, is there any way we can kind of dress up the facade a little bit, like, you know, things on the cornices and things around the windows, and just to give it a little more class? It just looks, that's my opinion. I mean, you guys can pick what you like, and everybody has their own taste, but.
Like I said, the colors would go to either your office or my office. I don't have an office, so.
Yeah.
I know, I do agree.
Can we dress up around, like, can we put some things around, like, shutters or something? That's to make it a little.
Well, it didn't call for shutters. We don't have enough room with the positioning of the windows for shutters, but we can add some additional dental treatments, cornice treatments along the parapets and so on. Sure.
That would help a lot.
Sure, absolutely.
That's my 2 cents, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bignell. Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to revert again back to my earlier comments. And I listened to the testimony from the planner. And again, I heard.
This is the architect. We haven't heard the planner.
I'm sorry. I heard about, again, amenities and basement, washer dryers and bedroom sizing, loft, stone base, colors, aesthetics, gables, sprinklers, all very nice. But I think that the board has to consider, is this a permitted use in this zone?
Mr. Brown, do you have a question for the architect? We're hedging into commentary. Do you have a question for the architect with regard to the architectural testimony?
I thought I just did. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone have a question? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Call Elizabeth Dolan.
Dawn, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And your name for the record.
Elizabeth Dolan, D-O-L-A-N, Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers, 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey.
If you could please provide your qualifications.
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Rutgers. I'm a licensed professional engineer registered in New Jersey and neighboring states. My license was somewhat recently renewed and is in good standing. Over the course of my experience, I've had the opportunity to testify in over 250 municipalities throughout New Jersey, and I've appeared in Edison several times and been accepted in all cases as an expert in traffic engineering.
And your license are current and in good standing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. You have no idea how difficult it was to call you Elizabeth.
I am Betsy.
But in any event, Ms. Dolan, you've been retained by the applicant in order to do a traffic feasibility study for this project?
Yes.
Could you please give the board the benefit of your findings?
Yes. We prepared a traffic impact statement for 401 Division Street dated September 20, 2022. I believe copies have been submitted. It's a somewhat brief report, only a few pages, because from a traffic perspective, this is a very quiet use. We've talked about 8 multifamily units or apartments. Reference is made to the trip generation manual by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. That's the traffic engineers' go-to publication to estimate traffic for a new development. During the busiest peak hours, weekday morning, weekday evening, Saturday midday, we're looking at a total of 4 movements, 2 in, 2 out, over the course of a 1-hour period. So that would be a peak, and during other hours, you might have 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. So it's a very quiet trip generator. I think Mr. Bignell may have said that we might be able to fit 3 single-family homes. That would be 3 peak-hour trips. The trips for single-family homes are slightly higher than for multifamily homes, but overall, it's not a type of traffic generator that's going to create a negative or perceptible change in operational characteristics. We've got the school there that's certainly a big generator, and residential off of Sims. So this would be a nominal trip generator and wouldn't create, as I said, a negative impact. Chris took you through the site plan. We meet the parking that's required with a surplus of 2 parking spaces. 16 are required, and we have 18. We've got the ADA, and I think there may have been a question about the sufficiency of the number of ADA spaces. Usually, from my experience, that becomes a management issue. If there were 2 units, for example, that needed ADA spaces, then we would have to restripe, and that could potentially bring us down to 17 parking spaces. But again, that exceeds, pardon me, the requirement. 24-foot two-way circulation is appropriate, and that accommodates the parking maneuvers. And that brings me to the conclusion, and of course, I'm available for questions, and I think Mr. Carley may have wanted to talk about some pedestrian and vehicular issues with me.
Okay. Mr. Carley, are you ready to jump in? Will you bring your microphone down? Thank you. Are you ready to jump in with regard to Ms.
It's only been
Dolan's
20
report?
years. No, thank you, Mr. Chair. We did offer commentary in our 3rd review report of March 2023 relative to pedestrian and vehicular access. And some of those comments the board sees. We just look to make sure that primarily that the site's been designed such that it's Americans with Disability Act accessible. That's the case, Ms. Dolan, correct?
Yes, and I would leave the specifics of the design, though, to both Chris and Greg Waga.
Okay. And we're in receipt of, and this speaks to comment 2.4 on page 2, we're in receipt of 2 reports, one from the police division and one from the fire division. The commentary that's offered by the police division in particular from Officer Winters. Have you had the chance to review that memo, Ms. Dolan?
I have not seen that memo.
Okay, I'm just going to pass it over to you. Because as ever...
No, wait, Mr. Carley. You're the same as any other professional. If you're going to talk, you're going to talk into a microphone.
Yeah, I need a microphone. I'm walking. I'm ambulatory. Barely.
Yeah, as the board knows, we'd like to make sure that the police and the fire professionals have reviewed the plans and are comfortable with them from an emergency access perspective. The fire, Chief Toth, has a short report. Officer Winters has a longer report.
Ms. Dolan, we'll give you a minute to review, just to let us know when you're ready.
Sure. I just reviewed the October 14 letter from the traffic control coordinator of the police department, and they're talking about visitor parking spaces. RSIS, the requirement of it comes out to 2 spaces per unit, includes the visitor parking spaces. We have a surplus of 2, but RSIS and the ratios account for visitor parking. So we've got a surplus on the site. And I guess the concern is the possible use of on-street parking. But it's my understanding, and I think he says it in here, that the parking on street is limited to 2 hours. And then there should be a right turn only sign added at our driveway. And I would concur, because we do have Division Street being one way across our frontage, and I guess the westbound, and then ultimately back up to Plainfield Avenue.
Mr. Carly? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I believe that the parking's restricted there because of proximity to the high school. So that's another matter for the board to concern relative to adequacy, the necessity potentially of a couple of extra spots for visitors, et cetera, et cetera. I believe the planning board encountered comments from this neighborhood relative to parking associated with the high school in recent applications. And so you do have in that neighborhood a lot of parking restrictions in terms of time limits that Ms. Dolan described. So it's something for the board to keep in mind. In terms of, this goes back to Ms. Dolan, in terms of parking, it's your testimony that there's adequate parking, correct?
Yes, adequate parking on site. We exceed the requirement, and the RSIS 2 per unit is inclusive of visitor demands, but we've got a surplus of 2 spaces on this site plan. Okay.
And we have a comment in here, comments 2.7 and 2.8, which speaks to the condition of the pavements on Division Street, which provide access to this property. Has the applicant considered on-track improvements?
I would have to ask Chris Zelle to answer that. I don't know.
Okay, because the street on the tract is, or the roadway, the cartway is in pretty poor condition.
Right. I know a lot of times there's utility connections and so forth, so that requires some improvement. But again, Chris would have to speak to the specifics.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go to the board, and I will actually kick things off on behalf of the board. Ms. Dolan, you labeled your report as brief, and to say it's brief is an understatement, because there's a lot missing here. And having reviewed your reports in the past, this is like a summary. This is just
it's just a statement. It's not a full analysis, correct?
Because what you didn't do, so you provide to the board a impact of the proposed project, but you don't show us what the current traffic from, there's currently a 2-family home there, so what the current output is from the current site.
It would be 1 or 2 trips in a peak hour compared to the 4 projected in a peak hour.
Okay, so you didn't show that there'd increase. And then you also did not give us any analysis in terms of what traffic is like going through Division Street.
Right, and I've been through there, for example, when it's school pickup drop-off, and it's a pretty slow-moving situation through there.
So in this, would you agree with me that this project is going to increase the amount of cars on the road?
Well, it's certainly going to provide a bit of an increase, but the amount of increase compared
Is your microphone on?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. It seems
Raj?
like it stopped.
Raj, her microphone's not working?
How about now? No. How about now?
Oh, there we go.
Switch with Skip. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll give this one to Skip. Okay. So there's definitely significant traffic in the area under existing conditions. From a traffic impact perspective, 4 additional trips in an hour is not going to change the operational characteristics. I think when it's school pickup drop-off, you've got a lot of activity on Division. It's slow-moving. Other hours of the day or in the summertime, of course, it's a different situation. But the school is most certainly creating a lot of traffic during those pickup drop-off periods. I think that if the people living in this location choose to live near a school, they're going to have to make their decision whether or not to exit to Division Street during those periods or return during those periods. But 4 trips in an hour is not going to create a negative impact here.
Okay. All right, does anyone else on the board have any questions for Ms. Dolan?
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman O'Gorman.
Mr. Carley's report, he talks about the electric charging stations. How does that impact the parking area?
Well, we're supposed to provide electric vehicle stations, and again, I might have to defer to Chris because I haven't done any of the calculations on that. And then you get a credit at a 2-for-1. So even though there's not the physical spaces, you do get credit for the EV-ready spaces. So that would further support the parking supply, but it's not physical spaces. It's a credit.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the?
I have another question.
Okay, my apologies, Vice Chairman.
So in reference to the police report by Officer Winters, the 2-hour limit is excluding public holidays and Sundays, the off-street parking. So that needs to be included for the record.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Dolan? All right, thank you, Ms. Dolan.
You're
Mr. Shire?
Yes, have John Takina. If Mr. Zalay could answer the questions that
Certainly.
you had of the engineer.
Without objection.
So the EV parking stations for a mixed or for a residential multifamily development are 15% of the spaces provided, which would equate to 3 spaces need to be EV. The first space installed with the station day 1, and then another third of the required EV stations installed year 3, and another third year 6. So it would essentially be 1 EV station provided day 1 with 2 make-ready stations provided, with those being installed then year 3 and year 6.
And you're agreeing to comply with that?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chairman? Great. Thank you. Mr. Shire?
John Takina.
Mr. Takina, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And just state your name for the record.
My name is John Takina. It's T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I-N-A. I am the principal with All Things Planning and Development, South Brunswick, New Jersey, and have been since 2021. I've been a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey since October of 1992, when I completed my studies at Rutgers University. My license remains in good standing, and I've had the pleasure of appearing before this board before.
And your license are current and in good standing?
It certainly is.
Excellent. You may proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Takina, you've been tasked with the job of representing the applicant with regard to the planning aspects of this project, correct?
Yes.
Could you please give the board the benefit of your inquiry and your opinions?
Certainly. The first one I'll giggle about, and I apologize for giggling as I approach the board, is on electric vehicle charging stations, you ask if we'll comply. Unfortunately or unfortunately, you can take it any way you like. We don't have a choice, and the board doesn't have a choice. So we all will provide electric vehicle charging stations in accordance with the requirements. And we will all be given, have spaces counted in accordance with those requirements. And they're the same, they're promulgated by the same agency that put forth the RSIS. So all those regulations all kind of bake in by themselves together. So I am here to talk about 401 Division Street. It is a somewhat unique property within the township, with its location on Division, surrounded by public properties in that block within your RB district, with the Thomas Jefferson Middle School across the street. And that does have impacts, obviously, during school times. As you know, Thomas Jefferson school time is 8:30 in the morning. So unlike an elementary school, which typically would actually occur almost after the peak period, TJ actually shows up a little bit right at the end of the peak period. So those traffic considerations are there. Fortunately, I actually live next to a school in my town that's an elementary school. And Ms. Dolan is correct that when you live next to a school, you just learn not to do certain things right at 9:05 in the morning and not right at 3:15 in the afternoon. But again, that's something that is not unique to my hometown or to Edison here. So we are here for use variance. We are here for use variance because this unique property is zoned RB, whereas it could really be zoned anything because it doesn't have a land use plan around it. So a use variance is governed by really two land use cases. The first is the Medici case from South Plainfield in the 80s, and that provides the base 5 things that we need to show in terms of particular suitability, meeting the purposes of zoning, the specific Medici reconciliation in terms of why didn't the governing body zone this that way, and then of course the negative criteria in terms of not substantially impacting the public good or having a substantial detriment to the zone plan or master plan. Substantial impairment to the zone plan and master plan, excuse me. And then that analysis has been updated by a case called Price v. Hemej up in Hudson County. And that was actually specifically a case that addresses a multifamily housing use variance. And that provides for some enhanced review in terms of where is the property actually located, what are the unique conditions that surround the property, and how does that play into particular suitability. And then the final thing that it really clarified is that items such as impervious coverage or some of the other bulk standards kind of subsume themselves into that use relief. So that you don't get as constrained by what is the standard of an RB zone, but you do get given the ability to compare yourself to what would be a normal multifamily arrangement, recognizing that if the property is particularly suited to a multifamily development and the property can accommodate the multifamily development in terms of its parking and its dimensions, et cetera, that it is expected that you're not going to meet the specific requirements of that district. So while I think it's appropriate that we consider impervious coverage, it's also appropriate that we consider it in context of the use that we're talking about and in context of the surroundings. So we have, a substantial parking lot to the north. We have a middle school to the west. We have a community center to the east, and we have a public park to the south with multifamily existing further to the south, and then obviously further west, or kind of the southwest of the school. We do have Sims Drive and the single-family district that's there. So again, it's a very unique and somewhat different area. So let me kind of address some of these concerns, and we'll see kind of how they come together. So we are seeking a use variance for an apartment building. We're seeking density for a density of 17.08 units per acre instead of the permitted 5.8 units. We've already said that the FAR variance has been eliminated, and it's interesting that it was one of those questions that it almost sounded like a trick question. Like, where did the space go? It went away. We made the building substantially smaller than it originally was. And that's where the space went when those dens were eliminated. And then finally, we do have an impervious surface percentage variance, seeking a 62% where 40% is permitted in the RB district. So in terms of particular suitability, I think there's a few things that are appropriate. One is the site is located within walking distance of the Edison train station. Higher density and appropriate densities near transit is a smart growth tenant, and we think that the site will benefit from individuals that will seek to locate here to be able to be close to the train station. It is the site's occupied by an old residence that is ready for its redevelopment, and we think that redevelopment as a multifamily use is most appropriate. It is adjacent to, as I said, public uses that again leave this somewhat of a residential island sitting in the middle. We think the higher density land use will have no negative impact on the surrounding uses. And again, we have a school that's there, we have parking lot, et cetera, and we understand that those 180 days, living with the school is going to be appropriate. It's going to be an important thing. But we also have the other 185 days a year that school's not in session when there's basically going to be a big empty surrounding us. And the development of the site as a single-family residence is certainly, out of character with the larger uses that are surrounding us. And the site has the ability to properly carry the use. Again, we have no variances for dimensions and height and all those things. We solely have the use questions, the density question, and the parking, the impervious question, which relates directly to how the parking is provided. And as we've already said, we have somewhat of a surplus of parking. That surplus of parking then becomes more of a surplus of parking when we include the electric vehicle charging credits that are there. So that's certainly something that we can work on. In terms of the density variance, again, the density variance, it recognizes that, in that case, it's just the standard is slightly less than a Medici standard, but again, it'll be subsumed in there. It's just, can the site accommodate the additional density that is proposed? And I think given that we need no dimensional variances, we provide appropriate parking. I think that it clearly shows that the site certainly can accommodate it. We've already heard from Ms. Dolan that the traffic is certainly not going to be an issue. Chris has testified how the site accommodates from an engineering standpoint, particularly stormwater management and accessibility. And Mr. Waga, testified how the building is laid out, et cetera. And I'm certain that between Mr. Waga and Mr. Shah, we can come up with a building that is attractive and appropriate for the site in town. In terms of the impervious coverage, we think that we can mitigate it to a large extent because of with the use of porous pavement, with the use of extensive landscaping surrounding it, and making sure that the stormwater management is appropriately controlled. As Chris said, we are not a major development, so again, it's a relatively modest improvement in terms of the site, and we think that those impacts in terms of impervious coverage can be mitigated. In terms of the special reasons, I would submit to you that there are three. The first is G, and I apologize, I do read these. To provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses in open space, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. E, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of persons, neighborhoods, communities, and the preservation of the environment. And I, to promote a desirable visual environment through the creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. And fortunately, I remembered to read more slowly because the last time the court reporter almost threw something at me. So those three purposes of zoning are there. Again, this is certainly an appropriate use adjacent to the train station, with good circulation access, surrounded by significantly larger public uses. As I said, I think Mr. Shah and Mr. Waggy can certainly create a desirable visual environment that'll be better than what's there today, and that would be entirely appropriate. One of the important elements of price is the location of the site within the zone. And here we have a situation where we actually are on the edge of a zone. Our adjacent larger property to the south is in the OSRC district. So again, we're not smack in the middle of the RB. We're really in the middle of this civic area, if you will. And again, we're not a prototypical RB district. So I think that being on the edge of this zone, that's a critical component that again aids to the particular suitability. It also addresses a little bit of why wasn't this property zoned differently. Frankly, I think if this property would have been zoned differently, it probably would have been zoned for municipal use and not for residential use because of the substantial public improvements and public facilities that surround the property. Again, it's literally an outlier island within a surrounding public and civic area. So again, I think that the governing body, didn't really overlook it. It just wasn't an issue. It kind of sat there for the 70 years that it's been there. Maybe that's something that'll come up in the upcoming master plan, but it certainly wasn't addressed in either of the last 3 iterations, either in 03, in 2011, or in the 2021 reexamination. The last piece that we need to address is the negative criteria. First and foremost, will the proposal have a substantial detriment to the public good? I would propose to you that it will not. This is an apartment building for multifamily units for individuals and either starting families or finishing families. The units are very modest. I'd expect that we would have a very modest population count here. More on the order of 1 and 2 people per unit in this situation. It's certainly not a noxious use, and it's certainly not a use that's going to have negative impacts that are going to spread across the neighborhood. In terms of and then the final one is it going to have a substantial impairment to the zone plan or the master plan? So in terms of the zone plan, your ordinance has a purpose that sets it as the minimum requirements to promote health, safety, and welfare. The provisions of this chapter are intended to provide adequate air, light, and open space, the convenience of access, to avoid undue concentration of populations, to regulate the height and bulk of buildings, and to limit and determine the size of yards and other open spaces, and to conserve the value of property and encourage the most appropriate use of land throughout the township. I would submit to you that this proposal actually implements many of those purposes, and it is certainly not an impairment to them. Having additional units in the middle of this, on this island, in the middle of this civic area or this public area, is certainly not going to be a detriment to the zoning ordinance. In terms of the master plan, your master plan reexamination in 2021 had some land use goals. Number 5, restated to encourage future development to occur in appropriate locations and intensities in accord with transportation and environmental capacities and anti-sprawl initiatives. Here we are in close proximity, walking distance to the Edison train station. Chris detailed how all the environmental regulations can be satisfied in terms of stormwater runoff, water quality, lighting, and landscaping. And certainly this infill site will not have any sprawl characteristics. Land use goal 10 restated to address the RB district and the number of variances reflecting an overly broad zone. Again, the RB sprawls across broad swaths of Edison that, really, I think your master plan now is looking to actually focus that zone in some more detailed ways to better reflect and match existing conditions. And that's one that is specifically called forth in your master plan reexamination, is to try and limit the number of variances through zone changes that limit the variances, not by not granting them. It's by changing the zoning to eliminate the number of variances. And I think, that is certainly something that the governing body can do But this site reflects one that's not a true RB area in a developed single-family neighborhood, but it's rather the center of a civic block. Your housing goals include a variety of housing types for all types of residents and housing opportunities. The site certainly implements that in terms of both family sizes and incomes, and does not impair the plan. And then finally, to encourage cluster housing in appropriately zoned locations and reasonable densities to conserve energy and open space and make use of available infrastructure. Again, this infill site does that. And by implementing these goals, this proposal in no way will impair the intent of your master plan. So for those reasons, we think that the site is unique. We think that its location on the edge of the RB district adjacent to the OSRC yields it as an appropriate location in this as an island in the middle of this civic area to provide for a little additional density that can be well accommodated on the site. We believe the board will have the ability to make the requisite findings, and I'm available for your questions.
Thank you. I'm going to actually start things off before I go back to the rest of the board. I'm going to disagree with you on 2 points that you made during your presentation. The first one, and it was echoed by Ms. Dolan, about, when you live near a school, you choose other times to travel. Well, in reality, you travel when you have to travel. When you have to get your kids to school, you get them to school and they have to get to school. You can't get them in late and say, oh, I'm sorry, there's traffic. I wanted to avoid the traffic. My clients will not allow me to be late for a meeting because, no, I had to avoid the traffic from the middle school that's 3 blocks away. You deal with it. So I'm going to disagree with that. The other disagreement that I have with your testimony is that stating that school is only in session 180 days a year. Yes, but Edison has some fantastic school facilities. They're used for sports on the weekend. They're used for different Saturday schools. They're utilized. And that's something that we do very well in this town because we have great schools. And the traffic is not a Monday through Friday thing. The use of the facility is not a Monday through Friday thing. It's a Monday through Saturday thing often, and it may spill into Sundays. My kids played rec basketball at TJ, and I know how crowded the school was at that time. So I think that those 2 points I'm going to go and disagree with. I know, so from reviewing your fiscal impact statement, the school impact, I will disagree with my alma mater, Great Rutgers University, estimating that the development will generate 2 public school age children. That's just not reality. We have one of the region's best school systems. People find and seek out Edison because our school system is so good. That it would generate more of an impact on this site than just 2 school children. With regard to the projected school costs and municipal costs, I want to thank you for being honest, because this is one of the few reports that I've actually reviewed in my time sitting on the board that is honest and that actually produces the numbers for what they are. We have had.
How do you do it another way?
Don't question me. I've seen it. I could write a book on it.
Wow.
Okay. But long story short is your impact is actually showing that for the municipality, municipal purposes and library, there'll be a negative net revenue flow of $6,533 under current tax rate. For school district, there'll be a negative net revenue flow of $3,345. So you're looking at, almost $10,000 of impact to local taxes. This was not a question, that was more of a statement. I'll go to the board if they have any questions for Mr. Tykenian. No? Mr. Pignon?
Mr. Chairman, as I stated in my report, I know everybody comes in and tells you how wonderful all these projects are. The concern I have is that the master plan still calls out for an RB zone, and the most you could get on this property would be 3 lots if you could subdivide it and get the frontages without the variances and all that. We're at 8. We were at 9. The question about dens, which is the planner described as he was so surprised. I was just making sure that they were not going to be used as bedrooms. So if they were consumed in the house, that's fine. For some reason, I didn't have the luxury of looking at the revised architectural plans. So I didn't know exactly what it was. So I was kind of being nice when I was asking that question. As far as the surrounding land uses, right across the street are single-family houses. So, and I have, my son lives across the street from a school, by the way, and he's not allowed to park in front of his house like 6 hours during the day because it's for school buses and for cars, and you have to get used to living like that because you only can park in your own driveway at points. This property, when we talk about appropriate places, this is a half-acre property that we're looking to put 8 units on, and at the same time, we're talking about comparing apples to apples before, like I talked about apples to oranges. Allowing the applicant to compare the setbacks and the densities and things like that you would allow in a permitted area or a permitted use or a permitted if it was a permitted zone. But I don't see anything here with like any kind of recreation, any kind of open space, any kind of private outdoor space. That's the stuff I learned when I was at Rutgers Graduate School way back when, long before that gentleman graduated. So my concern is that this doesn't fit there, and I would let the board know that. I don't usually step into that, but because some of the testimony I disagree with wholeheartedly. So I'm pointing that out to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Bernal. Also, there was one question that I had missed. Where did you do any analysis as to where the nearest multifamily development is to this site?
There's one down the street.
I was asking him, Hank, not you.
Sorry.
Yes, there's one down the street.
Is that the technical term?
It is. Immediately to the south, on the other side of the park, is Westminster Apartments.
And it was probably built in the 1950s, 1960s, and the master plan is a lot newer than that and said, no, make this RB zoning. So
yeah, okay. All right,
There's actually a new multifamily development just to the northeast, up on around the corner on Plainfield Avenue.
And it was created by this board several years ago with hours and hours and hours of testimony, and also the traffic on Plainfield Avenue there was a more reasonable to place that property there at the time. So it was more particularly suited on Plainfield Avenue than it is on Division Street.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have any other questions for Mr. Tykenian? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Shire.
That's the applicant's case.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will now go to the public. We will begin with anyone within 200 feet of the subject property wishing to be heard. All members of the public will have 6 minutes to state any comments that they may have on the case. We ask that if you have any questions for any of for the applicant or any of their professionals, that questions are asked prior to any commentary. There is no time limit for the amount of questions that you have, but once you begin commentary, your 6-minute time will begin. There aren't many people here, but if there's someone that comes up and makes a comment and then you agree with them, you could just simply say, I agree with the last person that was here, so as rather than being redundant. With that, we will go to within 200 feet. Anyone here within 200 feet of the subject property want to be heard? Sir? And first off, I want to thank you guys for bearing through the night and being patient with us. Thank you.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And please state your full name for the record, providing your address.
Asa Riashi, 34 Sims Road.
And sir, if you could just spell your name for the court reporter.
E-S-S-A, the first name. S-A. Our last name is El-Riashi, A-L-R-I-Y-A-S-H-I.
Thank you so much. So you may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening. The zoning denied this plan because it's a huge and big deal to build 8 apartments in this small lot. With this lot will be a good thing for one single family house, like a new single family house in the lot. We have so many students crossing between the schools, library, and park. We need like someone to manage traffic in and out of the 8 family apartments. The zoning will not allow it to build two-family home with a bigger lot. This plan called for 8-family, which is over the, I don't know how much the fair ratio, because it seemed to be wrong. You know what's the, for, I don't know what was the FAR?
As proposed?
Yeah, it says 0.36. I think is inaccurate. And this plan will drop off our values, and you could see in the picture, doesn't look beautiful as is, you know. It's across from Thomas Jefferson Middle School, daycare, church, park, and library, and it will be not safe for our children to walk and play. When they build this home, this house, or the two-family house, the driveway is from the back parking, which is from the back, from a parking lot with the easement they had. Back then, they may not allow them to do a two driveway in and out in the front due to student crossing from Thomas Jefferson to the park. The new driveway will block about 8 cars that park with picking up children from in the morning and in the afternoon. As of right now, there isn't enough parking alongside the street. The school is very packed, and this plan will bring around 15 to 20 students in our school system. As of right now, people living there make so much noise as a two-family. Last time, the police have to come and shut the music around 12 a.m. I don't know if they check with the water and gas and sewer, because the pavement, they just did it last year. And as I remember when I had a lot before, trying to do a cut, they told me I have to wait 5 years to open the street because it's a brand new paver. This is not like for a family use, this is for business. And you know, they want to make a profit in it, but it's going to be causing our kids back and forth. It's going to be dangerous for our kids. The traffic will be, I don't know if they mentioned about traffic there, but the traffic will be crazy because I cross there every time and I have to stop by the library there for a couple of minutes to cross over. Imagine we have 20 cars more from the apartment they're going to have. So we're going to have a traffic in and out Plainfield Avenue. Please disapprove this plan to save our children's lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else within 200 feet of this subject property want to be heard? Ma'am?
Raise your right
yes,
hand.
good evening.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And please state your full name for the record. Provide your address.
Okay. My name is Qing Wang, Qingwang. I'm the owner of 35 Sims Road, Edison, New Jersey, 08817. Also, I'm a state licensed family child care provider of Edison Child Care. For this case, when they build a new, like 2 storage 8 apartments there, it's too crowded. It's cost more traffic. It's not good for my Edison Child Care family. So I do want the more traffic there because it's like it's too crowded to build the more apartment there. And also for this public next meeting. So we almost next before the 30 minutes, I get this note. For my whole neighborhood, more people want to come, but they didn't get a note. So I heavily recommend we also need to postpone. Next time, we need more neighbors come, and also we need the legal, like an attorney give us more idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else within 200 feet, ma'am?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay.
And please state your full name for the record. Just pull that microphone a little bit closer. State your full name and provide your address.
My first name is Y-U-E. My last name is X-I-L. I'm currently living in the 24 Sames Road. And I'm a licensed New York attorney, and I'm working at home. So I bought this house almost like close to 1 year ago. Since I'm working at home, so I believe I have enough knowledge about the traffic and the neighborhood. The first things I wanted to mention is I do not think we get adequate notice about this hearing. I got this notice literally today because for some reason I heard about this from the other two residents speak earlier. They said this meeting has been postponed for 3 times. The first time when more residents come and then it got postponed. So this is the 3rd time, and since even I only got the notice today, I think this is the most I can do is attend this hearing, and I hope the board can allow more residents to appear. We are creating a power of attorney so we can have more resident opinions on this side. Okay, and the first, I object this. I plead the board to disapprove this motion because for the first reason is I believe a multifamily house zoning change will significantly lower the house value of the single families on the same road. When we bought this house here, we see all the neighborhood are single family house and nearly in the value range of almost $500,000. That's the reason we bought it. And because it's close to the school district, which is a very top-notch school district. So we believe the value of the property will increase. But right now, if you end affordable housing and near the neighborhood, very close to the school, we do not know whether the rental area will be temporary rents. But we see some of the potential detriment to the housing value on the 24 Sames Road. The second thing is I wanted to draw the attention to the board on the bigger picture of this location, because on the scheme, they only showed you the smaller picture coming from this. But I think we need to see the bigger picture, including the Festival Mall. Festival Mall is a mall then just in front of this lot, there is a very big Festival Mall. It's kind of like a high, at least the upper class, and recently still under the construction now. There will be a new building, and currently is all of the restaurant. Because of the design of this one-way street on the division street will make the traffic very make sense for the cars to go through the Plainfield Avenue and then make a right turn, not through the Jackson Road, but to the Lincoln Highway and then make turn to get into the room. So because the larger picture lets the cars to go through the larger circle because of the mall and because of the school. So that actually is very bad for the traffic added on top of this. I give you an example, like for 2 months ahead, we have been seeing at least 2 kinds of the car accident have happened near the crossing of the Lincoln Highway and the Division Street. So I hope the board can also take in consideration of the Festival Wall, the building, the mall is attracting a lot of the traffic. And then on top of that, we still have the school library, and also potentially we have the Edison Recreational Township. Maybe in the future will be more plan on this. So all of those are kind of representative for the significance of the township. And inside of the center of this township, the little island, our residents were expecting a very peaceful playground. So right now, after the school time, like 5, you can see the middle school kids will go to the playground to play the soccer, so people enjoy it. And on the head of the road, we have the 2 children daycares, so people can enjoy and send their children like under 8 years old to go to the care center to enjoy. But if right now we have the affordable housing building here, and I think it will kind of not an upgrade for the neighborhood, but kind of like a downgrade or potential hazard to the children and the small kids surrounded. I think that concluded my opinion. Thank you for the board.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Ms. Shaw, there was a question with regard to notice.
So, notice pursuant to the MLUL was properly provided for. So initially, the matter was listed on October 18th, 2022, but it was adjourned. There was no new date because it would have been adjourned to January. So there was notice required for the January date, which was January 24th. And for that, we do have the proper notifications that went out pursuant to the MLUL, after which it was carried to March 28th with no renotice required. From March 28th, it was carried to April 18th with no renotice required, and April 18th was carried to today's date with no renotice required because all of those notices were announced during the public portion of the hearings. In part, it looks like they were adjourned due to the fact that the board had a number of old business that was not concluded, and this matter would not have been reached. So notice was proper.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else within 200 feet wanting to be heard? Anyone outside 200 feet wanting to be heard? Sir?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your full name for the record. Provide your address.
Nick Fagan, 42 Edgewood Road, Edison.
You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple questions for housekeeping. Is the board in receipt of an October 9th, 2022 letter from the Board of Education, Edison Board of Education?
Yes.
I'm going to object to that. Letters to the board are not generally receivable in evidence.
That's correct.
Michelle?
That's correct. They can't be considered by the board.
Okay. I'd like to testify that I personally, as a resident of Edison, object to this plan and am asking for you to deny it. I also want you to know that this, obviously you know that this is contiguous to the TJ Middle School property. And it presents a clear negative impact to the Thomas Jefferson Middle School community. The Edison Board of Education has unanimously addressed concerns about capacity.
Objection to whatever someone else said or did.
I'm testifying, Mr. Shire, on my own recognizance.
Okay. You can't talk about what anyone else may think or may want to say. They have to be present. You're welcome to talk about your opinions and, tell us your position.
Yes, Ms. Shaw. So is the board aware that the Board of Education meets at the same time that the zoning board does?
Mr. Fagan, that's not relevant for purposes of this hearing. This hearing is noticed. It's required to be noticed by the MLUL. It complies in all respects. Let's move on.
The efforts of the community to fix overcrowding and issues with traffic.
Mr. Fagan, there's a case law on this. Overcrowding is not for the board's consideration. The board cannot consider that as a part of its decision making. Let's move forward.
Yes, ma'am. So the community's efforts to bring to you efforts of traffic and testify about overcrowding and just general overcrowding and traffic in our town. These plans, if you approve them, they undo things that people are working for in this town to ensure that the master plan is followed from a density perspective and from an overcrowding and from a traffic perspective. Okay? So I ask for you to deny this application, to vote no on this application, or reject this application. And I also ask, Mr. Chair, if you'd be willing to hire a traffic engineer on the board's behalf to research the traffic concerns that'll be generated by the extra population and density, and possibly a planner to testify to the board about the concerns about the master plan and its incongruous nature to what the master plan says and the RB zone says. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone further outside 200 feet that want to be heard? Can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public session.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Public portion is now closed. Mr. Shire.
Applicant has presented his case. I think we've got expert testimony on the issues that were raised by the board and certainly by the objectors, by more than competent experts recognized in their field. I believe we have been willing to go along with the recommendations of Mr. Carley and Mr. Bignell. This will be a market improvement of the property. It will certainly not be a big enough project to have any adverse impact on traffic in the area or safety. The police have no problem with it. The fire department has no problem with it. And it seems that this is something that will actually be good in this area. It is on a piece of property that is incongruous to the RB zone. It is certainly surrounded by larger properties that are not residential in character. And I believe we've made sufficient presentation for the board to grant the application.
Thank you, Mr. Shire. We'll now go to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to deny this application.
Vice Chairman O'Gorman, you're recognized. It's okay.
I'd like to make a motion to deny this application. This application has not met all the negative and positive criteria to grant the variance for this zone, including the proposed apartment building is not consistent with the 2003 master plan and the 2011 re-examination report. The required 40% impervious and the proposed is 60% impervious. There's concerns about the stormwater management, stormwater flows onto Division Street, the limited outdoor recreational areas. The architectural appearance of the building is not consistent with the neighborhood. The police report by Officer Winters has concerns about the off-street parking. The 2-hour limit excludes public holidays and Sundays, and there's a lack of a traffic analysis during school hours. This application has a negative impact on the neighborhood and the community.
I would like to add, Mr. Chair, also that I don't believe that the density question...
Mr. Brown, are you making a second? Are you seconding the motion?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Now you may.
Yes. I don't believe that the applicant has satisfactorily addressed the density question. I am not satisfied with the overcoming of the permitted use, meaning this proposed application is not a permitted use in this zone, amply stated many times. I don't believe that the case was made as to why we can't look at single-family homes instead. And I would like to say that's what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, motion made and seconded. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Barone?
No on the motion.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm sorry. Wait.
Let's clarify.
Clarification? Yes on the motion.
Mr. Patel?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Dove?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Cerrito?
Yes on the motion.
Mr. Chabra?
Yes to the motion.
Vice Chair O'Gorman?
Yes on the motion.
And Chairman Cumbo.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I agree with my colleagues. I believe that the applicant has not met the negative and positive criteria. The negatives associated with the project far outweigh the positives. This project would be an over-intensification of the use on the site and also an over-intensification for the RB zone. Current traffic conditions were not taken into consideration. The location of the site and the surrounding properties were not taken into consideration. The project would have a negative impact on neighboring properties, and it also have a negative impact on local government and local government services. And as a taxpayer, that's something that I take very seriously. And it finally, as was stated, is not consistent with the master plan. For all those reasons, I vote yes on the motion to deny. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Secretary, do you have anything else for the evening?
That'll be all.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Motion to close the meeting?
Second.
Motion to adjourn made and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Board stands adjourned until Tuesday, May 30th at 7 p.m. Thank you, everyone.